Hello patrons, it's Johannes from Noisebud. And earlier today I had a conversation with one of you guys about how to set up Purr LUFS in Reaper or Purr Fect. I'm going to talk about Purr LUFS, but the principle is the same. You do it the same way. And I said there's a video where I do that on Patreon or YouTube somewhere. But it turns out that I, of some reason, have removed that. And there's no walkthrough how to do it. There's a walkthrough how to set it up in Ableton, but not in Reaper. So I said, well, okay, let's do that. And while we were talking, I also mentioned that there are a couple of plugins that don't work out of the box with Purr LUFS. And there's a fix for that in Reaper. And I just realized while talking about it that I can make a script that fixes this with just a push of a button, and it will be solved. So I created a Reaper script to help you with that, and that you can use that even if if you don't know if the plugins are problematic or not. You can use the script just to be sure. And I'm going to demo that as well. So I'm both going to demo how to set up Purr LUFS, and I'm going to demo the script. So here we go. All right. I have some audio on a track, and I have an effects chain with two plugins at the moment. And there's an equalizer from Acoustic Audio, and there's my Shape 2 Advanced Alpha 10, which is not released yet, but we're going to use that today. Both of these plugins have this issue that makes them hard to use with Purr LUFS. Out of the box, you need to do some settings before you can do that. And it has to do with the number of input and outputs. And I'm going to get to that, but first we're going to load up Purr LUFS. Because, well, here's the issue with Acoustic Audio and not my plugins. Usually have loudness compensation in them, but Acoustic Audio they don't want to use that. So that's what's happening in Acoustic Air right now. If you change the gain, or if you change a band in an equalizer, for example, that won't be gain compensated. So you will be fooled by loudness. So if we just raise the gain, let's set the wide Q value, let's set this to 1500 and raise the gain on a band. It sounds way louder, so you get fooled and think that things sounds better than they do. So if you had compared with loudness compensated version of the processed audio, you may realize that this sounds like shit, and you take other decisions. All right, so now we're loading up Purr LUFS, and we're gonna hit LUFS. I have saved this as a chain because in Reaper you can do it in several ways, but this is the easiest way. I use two plugins, Purr Router, which is made for Reaper, and Purr LUFS. And Purr Router, you put that first in the chain, and Purr LUFS should be lost. Now you need to make sure that the track in Reaper can handle at least 4 channels. So you need to check that it has 4 channels active. In this case, I have it because when I load this chain, it will change the track channels to 4, but normally this will say 2. And if track channels here says 2, then Purr LUFS won't work. And that's because, now it changes this to 4. In Purr Router, if we take up the matrix, the routing matrix, you can see that Purr LUFS has 4 inputs. We're only using input 1 and 2, but it has 4 inputs, and it has 4 outputs. So we can remove those because they are not used, but it won't. If they're there, it doesn't matter if they're activated either. It's just that we don't use them. So the input in per router. It takes input on the left and the right channel, channel 1 and 2. So it's the left and right channel. And then it splits that to 2 stereo signals. So they have 1 left, 2 right, and 2 left and 2 right. I don't know why it says 3 here. Well, never mind. Anyway, it has 2 inputs and 4 outputs. So it copy the stereo input and just duplicate that, so it's the same stereo stream on channel 1 and 2 as it is on channel 3 and 4. So this is why we need 4 channels on the track, because these 2, channel 3 and 4, those are the channels that are used to send a dry copy of the signal to Purr LUFS, the actual plugin. So if we look at Purr LUFS matrix, it has 4 inputs. First, on input 1 and 2, the processed audio will come in, and the unprocessed will come in on channel 3 and 4, and it will put out whatever you choose to put out on 1 and 2, because in the plugin, if you hit pre, for example, then it will put out that what's coming in on channel 3 and 4. If you put it like this, then it will input the audio from channel 1 and 2, but it will be gain compensated. If you hit bypass, it will give you channel 1 and 2 without gain compensation. So you can decide what's going out from the plugin. All right, so we have set up our chain. We have the router, 2 plugins in this case, and Purr LUFS. Actually, I'm gonna add another plugin which has a lot of in and outputs. And you can see up here in Reaper in the corner here if it has a lot of in and outs, and this plugin has 4 in and 12 out, which means that it will be a bit messy to use with Purr LUFS, but we're gonna fix that, so don't worry about it. Let's go in and look at why these are problematic. Here we go with Magenta from Acoustic Audio. Turns out they have 4 inputs and 2 outputs, and that's because Acoustic Audio use the same template for all their plugins, and that's a template which has a sidechain input because they want to do compressors and stuff. This plugin doesn't use the sidechain input, but they have told the host that we have an input on 3 and 4. This will break the signal from per router to Purr LUFS. The dry version will be stopped by this, because the audio will go into the plugin, but there's no output, so it will just stop there, and that will break Purr LUFS functionality. And the same thing is actually with my plugins, and that has another reason. That's because the framework that I'm using, there's a bug, and I have already reported that. So, and at some point there will be a fix for this, but it will report the wrong number of inputs and outputs. Normally that's not an issue, but in this case it's an issue, because exactly like Magenta, this setup that the DAW thinks that this plugin has 4 channels in and 4 channels out, that will break the functionality of Purr LUFS, because the audio on channel 3 and 4 that should just pass by all these plugins will go into the plugin instead, and has nowhere to go because it's not programmed to handle 4 channels. So it will just stop that audio. So what you need to do with all these plugins is that you need to do it like this. You need to remove channel 3 and 4, both the input and the output, from every plugin that does this. And I think it's the same with the next plugin, but I think, yeah, I have already done that with this, but let's fill that in just to annoy everyone. So this normally looks like this when you open this, but I have a preset that removes that because I'm using this a lot with Purr LUFS. So, yep, But let's leave it like this. Now they're problematic. To fix this, I just run this script, and I have put the script on a button up here. So I just push that. And oh, I realized that I put the message in Swedish. Routing has updated. It says that in Swedish here, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna change that before I release this. So now I run the script, and let's have a look at how all the routing looks like. It has removed the extra input on magenta. It has removed the input and output of shape to advanced. And it has removed the output on DIN 1. So it has fixed that, but it has kept the routing on per router, and it has kept the routing in Purr LUFS. So that's what the script is doing. This is not, most plugins just have 2 ins and 2 outs. So this is a situation that you would have 3 plugins with the same issue in a chain. It's not that likely, but you can always run the script. It will just fix both Purr LUFS, Purr Fect, and Purr Router won't be affected, but all other plugins will remove everything except for input 1 and 2 and output 1 and 2. All right. When we done this, I usually put Purr LUFS up here because I want it. Now we are working completely loudness compensated. I'm actually gonna use gonna slow the Purr LUFS down a little bit. And here we go. Now we can start to do things. And all of a sudden, I can hear that I made a total mess of this, and it doesn't sound good at all. So Purr LUFS is amazing. I think that's it. To just tie this up. Purr Router first in the chain, then your plugins that you want to have loudness compensated, and last in the chain you have Purr LUFS. So you can put plugins post Purr LUFS as well, but those won't be loudness compensated. And the way I often use this is that if I work with let's say that I'm gonna work with shape to advanced in this chain, I often do like this. So I'm just loudness compensating the plugin that I'm working with. Then you have to think a little bit when you move around, because you will change the gain between the plugins. So let's say that we have worked with magenta here. Actually, let's do that. I'm gonna work a little bit with magenta. When I've done my settings, then I get, and I have locked Purr LUFS. Now I have the value that I need to change the gain, and it's minus 0.8 decibels. And if you have a good made plugin, then you should be able to write that in a gain, makeup gain knob. You can't do that in Acousticus plugins because they think this is hardware. It's not. So I'm gonna load a gain plugin. I add the value. Now we can move Purr router and Purr LUFS to another place in the chain and continue working with this plugin instead. So that's how I'm often use it when I need gain compensation for a certain plugin. All right. So that's it. First, Purr router before the things that you want to have gain compensated, then the plugin, and then Purr LUFS. And you need to make sure that you have 4 channels active, at least 4 channels active on the track that you're using. 2 channels, that won't work, then it won't be loudness compensated, so you need to set this to 4. And that's it. That's how you set it up in Reaper. So it's pretty easy. You do it very fast, especially if you start to save stuff like chains that I showed you that I have done, and the script that just fix all the plugins that don't, if you have problematic plugins in the chain, this script will fix it, and this post will just have the script and the description. So go and get that. And this was my quick tutorial about how to set up Purr LUFS in Reaper, and this will be a post on its own on Patreon, so it will stick there this time. Okay, bye bye.